I saw a tweet the other day that had a picture of Drake's back tattoo, and it's all these like faces, and someone said it looks like a Zoom call.
Put that up right now.
Yeah, edit that in.
Okay. Also, edit in the part where you do the intro
theme song. This is the Motion Pixels podcast. I'm your co-host, August Meyer. August, say hello. Hello! And drunk with power from his last week's stint as regular host, Matthew Rawlings, my co-host.
Full
Matthew,
host.
say hello.
Hello.
And joining us this week, the editor-in-chief of the new iDoc, the new iDubbbz documentary, Ice Cream Man. The current reigning, I don't know if there's been any fluctuations, but the current reigning bad boy of comedy, Dane Kevin Cook. Dane, say hello.
Hello.
Because this is the Motion Pixels podcast. Hello, gamers. It's good to see you guys again virtually. I prefer to see you guys in Minecraft than real life, just because I feel like Minecraft is more important than real life. But it's good to see you guys in the land of the living, because last week I felt like I was in the land of the dead. I had oral surgery, and it's maybe the shittiest thing you can ever do to yourself. So I hope you guys don't have to get teeth pulled anytime soon.
Yeah, can you briefly, I've never had a tooth pulled in my life, or known anybody to have a tooth pulled, at least in an intimate manner to where I can witness them going through it. Can you briefly describe what your experience was like afterwards?
Yeah. Okay, so here's just like a quick rundown of my whole experience. Ow, 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 ow.
So you were in pain basically the whole time afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Tell them about your dream.
It was a solid. Oh my god. Okay. So yeah, it was a solid week of pain last week. It was just constant going from pain pill to pain pill. No hard stuff. It was just this like super turbo like Tylenol essentially that I was taking. And there was one night where I think it was like Friday night. The whole week just blended together because I was like sleeping and doing nothing the whole week, just trying to deal with it. And I think it was Friday night, I was sleeping and I had this dream where my tooth was hurting in the dream. And in the dream, it was just like I was in this like world of pain where I just had accepted that it's never going to stop hurting and I'm always going to be hurting, and it's like hell. And I'm just like, I've accepted that I am in this hell of pain. And then I woke up and my tooth was still hurting, and I wasn't sure if I was like still in the dream or not. And it felt like the acceptance of living in a pain-filled world 24/7 had followed me into the real world, and it was very, very scary. And then I got on Discord, and a bunch of the boys, including Matthew here, were online, and they laughed at me when I told them that.
Wow, Matt.
As we should.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It's okay.
How long were you in pain for?
Let's see. I got it done on Tuesday, and it still hurts. So a week.
Well, at least not as so much that you like can't do normal activities anymore, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah,
right?
Man. Okay, so like we were. I think you guys recorded when Matt was drunk with power last Tuesday, like pretty much.
And normal and just drunk normally. Yeah, he was having a little bit to drink, I think.
Yeah, he was just drunk in general.
And he told me kind of in private, he said something kind of strange. He said, "I'm going to burn this motherfucker down." I don't really know what that meant, but yeah, definitely something was off. Anyway, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was just listening to last week's episode, and I do remember that the outro, maybe this is like another fever dream I had, like from that world of pain dream I had, but I remember both of you guys said something along the lines of, "Fuck a Gus. We don't need Gus. Fuck a Gus."
Yeah, that was definitely the mantra of that whole experience, that whole episode.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
hashtag fuck a Gus was trending. I don't know if you noticed.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you're probably too blind from pain to notice, but it was, people were really getting behind it. I don't really know why. Well, I actually do know why, because it makes total sense. But, it was kind of a movement. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them, honestly. But now that I'm back, It's kind of a new era because I've been talking with our producers, and we're going to be kind of neutering Matt and the power that he has on the set.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like kind of like in the fine print of our agreement, I have been given kind of like veto power over Matt's decision making, and that I've enlarged that print, so it's no longer fine print. It's like kind of like in header text on our contracts. So Matt can expect to like have a lot less power these days, which I think is going to be good for everyone.
Yeah, and you can expect that this that audio bit is gonna get Epstein, dude.
Dude, oh man, did you guys hear about? Okay, we don't want to get into Epstein conspiracies too much, but there was a federal judge whose husband and son were shot, who was involved, and the judge was involved in an Epstein case last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you hear that I don't know how to pronounce her name ever.
Ghislaine Maxwell?
Ghislaine
Maxwell was arrested finally. She was missing for like years. And she
she was missing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no one knew where she went. She like kind of dipped out and like went into hiding basically.
Yeah, and right before she did, she like was pictured. Someone took a picture of her and posted it while she was sitting in front of an In-N-Out burger reading a book about like CIA informants like disappearing or something like that.
She was researching how to disappear.
Yeah. She was, some required reading.
She didn't read all the way through the book apparently because it didn't work. She was found. She's in custody now, which is great because I was worried that she was going to get away with it. She's like half of that entire operation.
Yeah, she was actually reading the cliff notes of that book, so
yeah, she kind of cheated. Yeah.
But speaking of, the Epstein conspiracy, Dane, you have some big news in your life today. Today, July the 21st, 2020, marks the release of the Ice Cream Man on YouTube, and I really wanted to talk about that.
Finally, it's out. Well, I mean, to people who don't know about it, it's just a documentary that I've been working on. Well, I mean, that we've shot back in November that I've been working on for the last few months. I took my sweet time to getting around to it fully until recently, but it's finally done. It's finally out. We fine-tuned it to the point where we really liked it, and then we put it out. And it's on iDubbbz channel. You can just type in iDubbbz Ice Cream Man, and it's on there. It's about Dax Flame. If you don't know who that is, he's a YouTuber from like the early stages of YouTube. I believe his first video was like December of 2006, which is like, I think 5 or 6 months after YouTube was as a website came online for the first time or something around there. I think it might have come online officially in 2005, but didn't actually get traction until 2006. But anyway, either way, he was like one of the big first like YouTubers, but not only that, but he was kind of the first YouTuber that took advantage of it being kind of like a platform where you can play a character. For the most part, everybody who's making YouTube content at the time was either being themselves without any like barriers. It was all basically just video blogging, or they were doing sketch comedy like Smosh. And Dax was interesting because he was doing blogging, but it was very eccentric. And a lot of people kind of jumped to the conclusion that he was doing a character of some kind. And that kind of started a little bit of a mystery around him because when he started showing up to these events like conventions and stuff for YouTube gatherings or doing collabs with other YouTubers, he apparently never dropped character. And that it was very difficult for people to differentiate between the real person, whose name is Madison, and Dax Flame, his online persona. They thought maybe he was, I don't know, just dedicated to the craft, or he wanted people to think that that was really him. Anyway, the documentary is about that person. We caught up with him 14 years after his channel first started, so it's been a while. So if you're a youngin', or if you weren't around during the very early days of YouTube, you might not know who this is. But he's an interesting guy, and we had a lot of fun hanging out with him and making the documentary about him. So
yeah, I think it's focusing on Dax Flame for the documentary is really cool because it appeals to like people who were around when Dax Flame was big, because he was really big on YouTube when it was first going.
I believe he was in the top 100 most subscribed, which at the time, like if you were above 100,000 subscribers, chances are you were in the top. But he stayed relevant in that realm for quite a long time, for 5 or 6 years after YouTube first started.
And I think his brand of super awkward humor really hits home today. I just feel like that's such a popular kind of humor, like kind of what you get from things like Tim and Eric, like that kind of just like absurdist, like cringe out of your skin humor.
Yeah. It was funny because
really
it was kind of ahead of its time if you think about it, because he's doing basically kind of what the entire gimmick of something like Miranda Sings is. You know, like who Miranda Sings is?
Mm-hmm. The lipstick.
Lipstick she's like, it's very clear that it's a character. And I think that that's probably why it survived in this modern day and age, because I don't think that, quote unquote, tricking people or having a mystery surrounding you, I don't think that would work today, which we go into a little bit in the documentary about like the difference between YouTube then and YouTube now, and kind of the culture and how the YouTube audience reacts to certain things. I don't really know. It's funny because I think that his humor is definitely appropriate now, but I think that if he were to make those vlogs in the same way that he's making them now today, I don't think anybody would like it, because I don't think people necessarily enjoy the mystery of is this guy real or not. I think that they want to know one way or another, and then they can enjoy it. And back then it was kind of like, this is cool. It's like, who knows, man? Because like, even though the internet was still pretty powerful back then as far as like a communication tool, it still wasn't very easy for people to like research or do like deep dives or go and find like found footage of something like Dax acting differently outside of his YouTube channel. It was very much it was more under control in that way, and he was able to control the narrative a lot more. Now I don't think you'd be able to get away with that, because people would find out. They would dig into your life, and they would expose you. You know, can't really get away with it anymore. So
yeah, I'm reminded. I don't know if you guys have seen on YouTube, but Oliver Tree, I feel like it's been kind of big on YouTube as of late. He just released like an album, and it's that same kind of thing as like Pink Guy, where it's this musical character who is like clearly a guy doing a bit, but like,
well, it's so
really
clear,
convinced, like, you know what I mean? He's very, very committed to the bit, to the point where he does like interviews in character. But Dax, I mean, the cool thing about the documentary Ice Cream Man, I just rewatched it today. It seems like it's more or less not a character, but more like how this guy is. But he's figured out a way to kind of harness how he is in a funny way.
It's like a blend of both, in my opinion. I mean, like, we still kind of leave it up in the air in the documentary whether it, like, as far as answers go. I think most people would come to the conclusion that he's not trying to do a character when he's talking to people like us. However, I do think that he is, at least in some way, aware that what he is doing is funny, and he kind of leans into it in a way. And it's hard for me to believe otherwise, because honestly, I mean, if you watch the documentary, we get to a point where we organize a game show that he's always wanted to do. He wrote a book last year, and in the book we read it, and he had a chapter where he was like, I want to do a game show where we make smoothies, and we went and since we had all the camera equipment, we were like, well, let's film it, like, let's just organize it, and we put it together. And when we filmed the smoothie game show, we were like worried that it wouldn't be funny or whatever, but he made it funny. And I think he knew to make it funny, whether he did any, it's hard to explain really, because he went out of his way. I personally think that he went out of his way to amplify his awkwardness on purpose, because he knows that that's what people like to see from him. So I don't think that it's entirely accidental, but I do think that it's heightened by his already awkwardness. It's kind of like a good fallback. It's like a really good strategy, actually, because say you wanted to be like an entertainer, but you have terrible stage fright. Like, the best thing you can do about that is work that stage fright into your act, so that if you ever do mess up or if you ever do have a weird, awkward moment, you can play it off as intentional and you can roll with it. A very good example of that is like Stephen Wright. Is that his name? Stephen Wright?
Who's that?
He's a comedian from like the 70s and 80s. He's like the inventor of like the one-liner. He does stuff like, "Oh, I spilled spot remover on my dog and now he's gone." Like that's a joke.
And that's cool.
And he'll go up on stage and his one-liners are pretty funny on their own, but the performance is also a part of it because he acts like he's so terrified to be on stage the entire time, and he's like constantly wiping sweat from his brow and like pacing around, and he's kind of mumbling jokes a little bit. He's doing it in like completely deadpan, and I've read that the reason why he wanted to do that, like performance-wise, is because he had terrible stage fright, but he had all these funny one-liners that he wanted to get out there, and he was like, "Well, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna bomb." So he would turn the stage fright thing up to 11. It became part of the performance. It became part of his act, and now he's just kind of known for doing that. One-liners along with really awkward stage presence, and I think that Dax has kind of turned that into a YouTube channel where he is very awkward. He is very socially weird. And I think that he realizes that. And he's like, well, I'll just amplify it, turn it into a performance. And then, bada bing, bada boom, you got it. So I think it's a blend of both. I think that it's him being self-aware, but I also think that he's not like a secretly a normal guy. It's not like if no cameras are around, then he's just like talking normally or whatever. It's not that far blown, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. I really liked the experience that we had. Yeah,
iDubbbz, or Ian. I guess it's weird to call him by his YouTube channel.
He goes by either one.
Okay, yeah, in the documentary, iDubbbz mentioned he compares he compares Dax to like Michael Scott, and it really feels like, I think that's a really good comparison. Like Michael Scott from The Office, who is this like horribly awkward guy surrounded by like more or less normal people.
Yeah,
and it's like painful to watch, but that's like the magic of it. And
yeah,
like,
that's what's so funny about it.
The documentary is like an hour long, and the entire time, like it even like there's even parts where iDubbbz is super like he can't even like keep up with how awkward it is. He like has to stop.
Yeah, it's funny. I like those moments where Ian can't keep up because it kind of makes it seem like Dax has a superpower of some kind.
Yeah, like when he's cold approaching people.
Yeah, it's like.
Part. Do you like
YouTube?
YouTube?
I love those sequences.
Hey, do you watch YouTube?
Yeah. And people are, I mean, I think that it's like you get these assumptions where it's like, oh, he's super awkward, so he's not gonna want to talk to people. But that's the complete opposite. I think that because he's worked his awkwardness into a performance, it gives him this sort of confidence that it's like, oh, I have comedy to fall back on at this point. You know what I mean? Like he would probably never do that. Well, I don't know. It's hard because he tells all these stories in the book where he just goes and he travels by himself. He's traveled to many, many countries just by himself, and he tells all these stories about people he meets. And he says that he prefers going and sleeping in hostels over hotels because it gives him an opportunity to meet people. I can't remember if it was in the book or if he told us this story, but we thought it was really funny. Apparently he was sleeping in a hostel in like India or Russia or something. And if you don't know, a hostel is basically just a room where you sleep on the floor with a bunch of other strangers, and you can stay in the hostel for like $1 a night. It's like super
always
cheap.
On the floor, but
well, I know, yeah. But it's like a shared room, and you basically sacrifice privacy for affordability. And he said that he always prefers it because he gets a chance to meet people and interact with people, which is funny because you wouldn't expect him to be that kind of person based on his demeanor and his personality. But he's very outgoing. And he told this one story. I can't remember if it's in the book or not, but he said that one time he woke up kind of before everybody else in the hostel, and he said that he didn't know why he did it. to this day, he doesn't know why he did it, but when he woke up, he kind of like shouted a little bit. He said, "Rise and shine," or something, and everybody woke up. And I thought that was so funny. It's so funny to imagine Dax doing that. So I and just the fact that he tells that story, he recognizes that it was a funny situation because of how weird and awkward it was. So,
I'd be pissed.
I think it goes past just him being accidentally weird and him realizing, oh, I'm occasionally accidentally weird. Why don't I just make people laugh by being accidentally weird a lot? You know what I mean? Win-win. I think it's genius. I love it.
Yeah, it's like he has all of the awkwardness of an actually awkward person, but he doesn't pay the price for that awkwardness. It's like everyone else around it.
He's kind of turned it into a way to do what he wants to do, which is be an entertainer or be involved in show business. So I think it's really clever, and I'm proud of him. I'm glad that he's getting a lot of recognition after this documentary. People are going to his channel and subscribing, and you can watch the Smoothie Madness game show as a separate uninterrupted episode on his channel. And people are in the comments and they're saying, dude, you need to either make more episodes of this and put it on YouTube, or you need to sell this to Adult Swim. Like, I think that he really needs to take advantage of this opportunity. Like, if he shows that video and the comments to a network, like Adult Swim is a great fit, I think. I mean, he has a pretty good shot of getting at least a budget, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just so like, I think right now people really appreciate this awkward sense of humor, in part due to the inspirations that we talked about, like Tim and Eric and The Office and whatnot.
Yeah.
But people also today, with the state of the world, people appreciate wholesomeness, and like a smoothie game show, like you can't really get more wholesome than that, coupled with this guy who just seems happy to be around people.
Yeah.
It is a pretty awesome, like wholesome way to get that fix of like awkward humor.
It was very weird how perfect that situation turned out with the guests in particular, because Brett we found randomly on the street, and he was one of the only people who talked to Dax who seemed to, I don't know, humor him in a way that wasn't condescending, and he just turned out to be available to film that on the day that we were going to do it, and he turned out to be great. I think Brett, I was talking to Ian and Ben about this when we were editing it, and also kind of confirming it through the comments today. It seems like so far in Full Force, there was kind of a side character who kind of stole the show, and that was Mike in Full Force, Fatty's friend, the weed smoking guy who films. Like he just turned out to be the cool side character. Yeah, the guy who like
fires.
Yeah, the
fire
pyromaniac.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It turned out like half the comments on Full Force were just like, dude, Mike is like the coolest guy. What the hell is this guy's like deal? Like he's just like he's just there, he's chilling, he's just making fires and filming lightsaber duels, and he gets into the duels and he's like friends with Fatty and stuff. He's like a good friend. And he like stole the show a little bit. And in this one, I'm noticing a whole lot of the same thing, but for Brett, who just turned out to be really like along for the ride and totally like, I don't know, played along with Dax's awkwardness and was really positive, even though he got fucking swept by Letitia, which is hilarious to me. And by the way, Letitia, man, I'm almost glad that lady couldn't make it for one reason or other. I mean, she said that her car broke down, but I still don't believe it. I think she just ditched. And we just happened to grab Letitia, who was William Osman's like cleaning lady. I don't know a better way to say it. Housekeeper. Yeah. And she just happened to be there, and she happened to be really charismatic and really good at making smoothies, apparently. So it was perfect.
Could you go into that? So iDubbbz just kind of drops it offhand, like, oh yeah, so we decided to film this smoothie game show in William Osman's kitchen. And I'm a big fan of William Osman's YouTube channel. He makes these, like, for anyone who doesn't know, he makes these weird like gadgets. Like he straps like airsoft guns to remote controlled boats and like shoots other boats, and makes like, he made like a vaping beanie for H3H3 on their podcast one time. Yeah.
He's like he's like an electrician or an engineer who makes memes, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super funny, and like he consistently puts out awesome like awesome, like weird gadget videos. But how did that happen? Like what was the driver for using his kitchen and hiring his housekeeper?
Oh, I mean, well, he's got a nice house that he films in, and he's got a nice kitchen, and he lives in LA. So it was just kind of, it was a nice place to do it. We were thinking about, it was either film in someone's kitchen, because the place that we were staying at, the Airbnb, its kitchen was you couldn't film in it. It was too small. But we were considering going to the YouTube Space LA, which is like it's basically just a place where if you have a verified account through YouTube, or if you have a YouTube partnership or something, you have to have a certain amount of credibility on YouTube. You can sign up for like certain times of day to go and use their facilities, and it's basically just like a professional like set where you can go and use like huge backdrops and stuff, and they probably have a bunch of things to set up stuff like that. Like we could have probably brought in, the smoothie ingredients and the blenders, but they could have provided like counters for us to do it on, and like a nice clean backdrop. I don't know if they would have provided lights. They probably would have. But it would have been like a nice, like big sterile place to film. And we were considering doing that. But I can't remember what fell through, if there just weren't any available slots, like time slots for us to do it, or if we just figured that it wasn't ideal for one reason or another. But eventually, Ian just asked William Osman, who, like I said, lives nearby. He lives in like not the Hollywood Hills, but like somewhere in the hills of LA. And he has a pretty big kitchen that was kind of ideal for that kind of thing, and he agreed to it. So I mean, that seemed like a better option, just because it felt like it would have been more under control, I guess, because going to the YouTube Space probably would have been a little bit less ideal. I mean, like if you go to like someone's house and someone's kitchen, like you have access to all of the amenities of a kitchen, like a freezer, a fridge, and a sink and stuff to clean all this stuff up. But none of that stuff is guaranteed on at YouTube Space, as well as like all of the other stuff like lights. We didn't really know exactly what we were supposed to bring. So yeah. And William Osman, I mean, like he's a really friendly guy. Like we hung out with him the rest of that day, regardless. Like after we were done, like after they left, like all of us, including Dax, like went out to dinner with him, and then we came back to his house and we watched YouTube videos on his TV, and I helped him film a video where they made Rice Krispie treats and tried to see how much sawdust they could put in it.
I saw that.
Yeah. I'm the cameraman on that. And if you watch it, you actually can see there's like a gag where we go to the store to buy all this stuff, and on the way, Ian takes the camera and he's in the trunk of the car, and William like drove around the parking lot to like shake him around and stuff. When he comes out of the trunk, I open the trunk and Dax is standing right behind me. So if you watch that video, you can go back and see exactly the time frame that we were filming the documentary. I'm surprised no one pointed it out. I think I went and looked at the comments because I was like, oh shit, people are gonna realize like something's up. Why is Dax Flame hanging out with iDubbbz and Uncle Dane? And iDubbbz and Uncle Dane only ever really make one thing together, so that you put two and two together. But nobody figured it out. Nobody noticed. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, William Osman, I mean, to answer your question, he's just a really helpful, collaborative guy, and he's one of Ian's good friends, and he just happened to be nearby, and he had all of the stuff set up, and it was also nice because we used one of his cameras and one of his tripods, because we only had 2, I think, and we needed 3. So yeah, it worked out.
Oh yeah, I think it added I think it added to the wholesomeness, because like you were saying, like if you had that sterile space, like it would have looked, just like that. Like it would have looked like a set. But the magic of it was like you guys were like, or not you weren't in the game show, but the contestants were like using like what was clearly like Target brand mango chunks. Picking them up off the island in the kitchen, and it was all just like it looked just totally thrown together, which I think added a lot to the magic of it. Yeah.
The low budgetness, I think I definitely wanted to go for as minimalist as possible. Like I didn't want to make it look too fancy, because I mean, keep in mind, I mean, we filmed this pilot for him, and then now we're just kind of saying, all right, go make the rest, Dax. Like, hopefully you make enough money from book sales and like with the t-shirt sales that we're doing, we're collaborating with him on for this documentary, and hopefully you can, fund more of these. I mean, it shouldn't be too expensive to do, but I don't know how he would be able to recreate that. I wonder, Dax lives in L.A. I wonder if he could get in touch with William Osman again and just use his kitchen every time he wants to do it. I mean, why not? I mean, I think it's a fine setup. So, but yeah, as long as he can go out of his, pardon me, if he can go out of his way to find like a full-time editor and like somebody to do like professional graphics. I mean, Yahiamice, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's another TF2 YouTuber. But he made the graphics for it and stuff. If he reaches out, I mean, like all the stuff that we provided is not, I mean, you can find people who do that stuff for cheap anywhere. You can go on Fiverr and find that shit. So I think he definitely has the means to continue the series. It's just that if we would have started too high, like if we would have done the YouTube space thing, or if we would have made it seem too professional, then we would have been setting this bar a little bit too high for him. So it kind of helps for that as well. Also, I mean, like I'm not a professional by any means. I mean, like I make YouTube videos, so that was about as high as my production value can really reach with the resources that we had at our disposal. So. Yeah, it all kind of worked out and made it a little bit funnier, I think, because it felt a little bit thrown together.
Yeah, and there was a part in the doc where iDubbbz says something like, I was kind of worried that we would have to come up with all of the setup for the game show, but as soon as you guys started filming, Dax was just calling all the shots and already had all of this stuff figured out. Like I guess he had been in that Jubilee game show recently and took a bunch of ideas from that, or was inspired by that.
Yeah.
And it was just like a DIY version of that kind of thing. It was so wholesome. It was so wholesome. And I totally would watch a smoothie game show. And I love his reasoning for wanting to do a smoothie game show. You guys ask him and he's just like, oh, I just like smoothies. And iDubbbz is like, so you want to do this just because you like smoothies? He's like, yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I think that he could definitely tweak a lot of the rules and stuff. But at the same time, I think the chaos of the rules and the confusing nature of it also kind of contributed how funny it was. So as long as he keeps it different but still confusing, but not too confusing to where people get frustrated, I think that's a good middle ground to hit. And I'm just worried that it's like lightning in a bottle, and we're not gonna. And if he does do it again, the randos he finds are as along for the ride as those two were, because if they would have just sat there with blank stares on their faces like what the hell is going on and not played along or had a good time or anything like that, I think it could have been a huge dud. But thankfully it was definitely the standout sequence. Like I've been reading comments all day. Almost all of them are super positive, and a huge majority of them are praising how funny the smoothie game show was, which is great because we were looking for a finale to this thing from the very beginning, and the idea to film the smoothie game show is actually something we came up with while we were on site. Like we didn't know exactly where we were going to go with the documentary until we were already filming it, and we just kind of, I don't know, looked in the book and was like, this smoothie game show thing, like what if we filmed that and made it for him. And that can be like the goal of the documentary. Because I think that even though it's a documentary, I think that there still needs to be a quote unquote story to these things. You know what I mean? Like the story of Full Force was that he was having like, I don't know, a feud with his ex-friend Robert, and they were going to duel. Like that was kind of the conclusion that it led up to. And we needed that kind of thing for this, and the smoothie game show felt like the appropriate thing. And we were kind of hoping that it would turn out good, and I'm really happy that it did, and it resonated with people to the point where they're asking for more. So I'm excited to see what he does with it. When is this gonna go? This thing gonna get released?
Like
this
Thursday, Friday, something.
Yeah,
Thursday, Friday. What day is it?
It is
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it'll be out by then. And Ian went on the H3 podcast today. It'll be out tomorrow,
cool.
which is Wednesday. So it will have already been out by now. And also Dax went on the H3 podcast with him as well.
Oh my God.
So they went on there as kind of like a promotional thing, and they talked about like their experiences and stuff. And apparently, I actually don't know if this was something that happened on the H3 podcast or off it. So I don't know if this is actually confirmed or if it's going to go through, but I'm really excited if it does. H3 actually, or Ethan, proposed to Dax that he come and be like an H3 podcast correspondent of sorts.
Oh my God, that's
where
so
they send
perfect.
him to like to conventions or something.
Oh my
and,
God. That's
and
great.
ask questions and stuff. I think that that's a really great fit for Dax. I think that it would be really funny if he interviewed people like on the street and stuff, because he's just so natural at that, and he's so funny with it. And if he does it on the H2 podcast, if they send him to like some anime convention and he just goes around asking like, so what kind of anime do you like? like, or
Hey,
like,
do you watch anime?
and they say like, oh, I like, JoJo's Great Adventure. And he's like, why? Or just asking these like questions that don't lead anywhere. I don't know. It's really hard. Yeah, I mean, like, because I don't know exactly how he'd react in those situations. I think that's why it would be so funny. But because I mean, he lives in LA and so does H3. So I think that could be a great little partnership if they go through with it. So I'm stoked about. I was really excited to hear about that they might be setting something like that up.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I mean, I watch the H3 podcast. I watch every episode pretty much.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, that's the one that's coming out tomorrow. Spoiler alert.
Wow, dude. Totally spoiled it for me. But it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the H3 podcast, because at the very beginning of our podcast, we were talking. I was bringing up Oliver Tree, who was just on the H3 podcast, who was this like kind of supremely awkward guy in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. He was just on it, I think today or yesterday. So that's a funny coincidence. It's funny how all of these, or at least maybe it's just like the point of view I have, but a lot of my favorite YouTubers, like iDubbbz and H3 and William Osman, all seem to kind of like interface with each other. I think that's really cool.
It is kind of cool how the collab is kind of making its way back to YouTube. It was kind of dead for a bit, but I'm seeing it's kind of making the rounds again. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but for the longest time, and it might still be like this in certain groups, but it seemed like for the longest time, collabs were basically like, oh, come over to my house and we'll sit on a couch and we'll review something together or whatever. And it's very, very basic and straightforward, and it's very uninteresting to me. But I feel like recently, like in the last couple of years, collabs have started evolving back into, okay, like this person is here and we have like something interesting to do. You know what I mean? Like they're bringing something to the table in an interesting way. That's not just sitting on a couch and talking about something. And like I'm really excited about stuff like that. Like Ian's been in a ton of William Osman videos where he's just participating in the experiment as just another like test subject. It's not like, oh, iDubbbz is here and it's basically an iDubbbz interview, but just a hangout session also, like with no like real goal in mind or anything like that. Like he's here and he's like driving this battery powered toy car for as long as it can go or whatever that video was. I don't know if you saw that one. Or like the one that I filmed where he's helping William make what do you call those things? Rice Krispie treats out of sawdust. Like those are interesting activities for people to engage in. And Ian didn't really need to be there for that to happen. It's just that he happens to be there. And I'm seeing more and more of those kinds of collabs now, and I'm excited about that trend making its way back. Because for a while, collabs were definitely just so cookie cutter and weird and lame.
And maybe that's, I don't know much about like the business side of YouTube, but maybe a lot of those more boring collaborations were born out of like multi-channel networks, just kind of like saying like, here, we can give you this guy for the day, like do whatever you think would get the most clicks.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. I didn't really think about that because multi-channel networks are actually on their way out recently.
Yeah.
So that makes a whole lot of sense. That multi-channel networks are just like, hey, here's this other YouTuber, collab with them, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. How about you just come over to my house and we'll just like open a box of makeup and we'll talk about the makeup.
Yeah.
You know, like nothing too exciting. And it just devolves into an interview more than anything. But then multi-channel networks aren't shoving these interactions in their faces anymore. So now they're just kind of like, you know, reaching out to people that they like and saying, hey, I think it'd be really funny. I'm trying to make these Rice Krispie treats and seeing how much sawdust I can put on them. You wanna help? I mean, like you can just stand there and you know, help me do it. Just to be a supportive role, and it works out and it's funny, and yeah, I like those. I hope people keep doing it. Like with, you know, the prospect of Dax being a correspondent on the H3 podcast. I mean, like that's better than him being a guest, you know? It's awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Or like I think Psychic Pebbles, who is one of my favorite like creators ever. He's never been a guest on the H3 podcast, but he'll randomly call in and do like a character or a voice and like do basically a skit. And I think that's like a more interesting contribution and like way more entertaining than if he were to be a guest on the show. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. And I know H3 has done that a couple times, like Salvia Eric, Internet Comment Etiquette. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he had that kind of like correspondent role where he would just kind of hang out and essentially just like sit at the table. Well, I think he might have even been there when William Osman was. Maybe not. But
usually whenever I see him on, it's with Jack's Films. But I know he's been on by himself before.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. But it's like the casual nature of these collaborations that you see nowadays, I think is what at least personally, that's what I like about them, where it doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem oh, here's this name you can slap on, you know, like featuring this person. It's not just that. It's also
just not for clicks.
You know, it's like the hanging out, the hanging out nature of it, the casualness of it.
Yeah, the chemistry is there because
exactly.
It's not. Yeah, the chemistry is important, I think. And whenever you have a little bit more control over who you're collaborating with, and you're incorporating them into the idea of the video that you were already going to make, I think that it's so much better. And I'm glad that it's coming back. I'm glad it's here again.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at the doc like that, if you look at Ice Cream Man like that, it is kind of a collaboration between Dax and you and iDubbbz, where, I mean, you just go full force with like an idea that Dax has and kind of like help shape that for him.
Yeah, definitely. This one did feel a little bit more like a collab than Full Force did. Full Force was...
that was a case study.
Dude, Full Force is like stepping into another world, man.
Yeah, I'm actually very grateful for what's happened with the reception of Ice Cream Man, because in my mind, and I always kind of prepare for the worst, I guess, whenever these things are about to release. I mean, like it's been finished for 2 weeks now, essentially, and I was basically just waiting for it to be released and waiting for certain puzzle pieces to fall into place so that it could eventually get put out. But I was worried about the reception of the documentary Ice Cream Man as being heavily compared to Full Force. Like people would just be like, this isn't no Full Force, but you know, it's still pretty good. Like I was worried that people were going to basically automatically compare it to Full Force, because whenever you make a sequel to something, or whenever you make an episode 2 or whatever, people are going to be like, was that good, or was it better or worse than the other thing? And so far, because of how like crazy different the characters that we're interviewing and making the documentary about are, I think that it kind of inadvertently kind of changed people's direction of how to think about it, and they think about it as its own thing. And the people who are directly comparing about it, or comparing the two, have thankfully given great takes, which is like most of the people have agreed that while Full Force is definitely more spectacle and definitely more intriguing on like a morbid curiosity level, and definitely more like, I don't know, depression porn, I guess, in a way, because it's like this guy's in like this terrible like town and living situation, and it's funny because he's a funny guy and he's making the best of it. And that's kind of the theme of the documentary. And because of that, it's less funny and more like odd and weird. And you can't look away. It's like a train wreck kind of situation. But with Ice Cream Man, it's definitely more funny, I think. And a lot of people have agreed with that, that it's not as, it's that Full Force definitely wasn't as funny as this one is. But it also kind of doesn't have that same spectacle because it's like much more grounded. It's a relatively more normal person than Airsoft Fatty. He's in a little, I mean, like while he is down on his luck comparatively to his, previous career was, he's in a better living situation. It's not as depressing. He has high hopes for the future despite him being in a dead-end job. It's like, it's not as depressing as Full Force was. So I feel like they're not really comparable, and I'm glad that people have realized that, and they haven't been just jumping to like, oh, I got to compare the two, you know what I mean? Because that was the thing I was worried about, because I totally think that they're two different experiences watching those two. Like, there are certain people who I would show one of those documentaries to instead of both of them, because I know that they would only like one of them, you know what I mean? Like, I would show my mom Ice Cream Man, right? And I would probably show Full Force to my mom too, but I wouldn't expect her to like it, you know what I mean? Like, I would show Ice Cream Man to my mom, and I know that she would probably enjoy it, as opposed to Full Force, where she'd be like, it's kind of gross, I don't like that.
Yeah, Full Force was pretty gross. But I mean, a common thread, I'd like to hear your thoughts about like what you see as the common thread in the documentary series that you and Ian work on. But what I see it as is like focusing in on the human side of what many people might laugh at, and laughing like with these people, and digging into like why they are the way they are, and why these people act and put themselves out there just to be a lot of the times like misunderstood, or maybe even made fun of. More so maybe with the case of Airsoft Fatty, but I mean, a big theme of Ice Cream Man is that no one understands what Dax's deal is. They don't know if this like turbo awkward dude is real or not. They don't know if he's doing a bit or not. And I think that same kind of thing is there in Full Force. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on what like the common thread, like if you, let's say you did, many more of these, which I'm sure you're planning on, like what is like the common theme that you want to weave throughout them?
You definitely have hit the nail on the head as far as the common theme between the two that we've made already. And I don't think that is intentional necessarily. I think that's just kind of how it worked out. Like, I'd say that both of the documentaries are, check out this weird character. Turns out that they're not so bad. They live life the way that they like to, and it ends up being kind of wholesome at the end. You know what I mean? And I think that, yeah, you already kind of established what the common thread is between the two existing documentaries. However, that hasn't been our goal. They just kind of worked out that way. And when it comes to the next few documentaries, we're not looking at subjects who can give us that theme. We're mostly just, I mean, the theme of the documentaries, as far as I'm concerned, is just what's interesting and who is an interesting thing or YouTuber or person for that matter. They don't even have to be a YouTuber. They don't even have to be a person. They're much more open-ended than I think people realize, just based on the two that we've made. But like, we have like a document of like potential subjects that we keep updated. We add things, we remove things as we go along. And it's so diverse. It's like a bunch of different crap. Like anything from an abstract thought, like concept, to like a real living person. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's definitely not as planned out as people might assume, but we do, I think, have the goal of just making the documentary interesting, which is so, open-ended. Everybody wants their documentary to be interesting at the end of the day, but we definitely aren't aiming to make a wholesome documentary every time. And I think that there are definitely a few people on our list of subjects that I would be very, very surprised if people came away from those documentaries and said, wow, that was wholesome. Because yeah, it doesn't seem likely.
Well, after watching Ice Cream Man again today, I went and looked at a bunch of the comments. So I was on Twitter looking at comments, and I saw a bunch of people saying that they wished y'all would do a documentary on the report of the week. This is running on empty food review.
I love that guy.
I love him
he's
too.
Great. He's great.
That's more on the wholesome side. So I don't know. Have you guys thought about? I wouldn't be surprised if he was on your list.
Yeah. We've reached out to him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that guy. I've been following him for years. And honestly, his food reviews are great. You know, I don't eat a lot of like fast food, but I learn about it from him.
I live vicariously through him because I don't really eat a whole lot of fast food either. But it's interesting to see what the fast food companies are coming up with. I mean, like, I mostly am interested in his videos because I'll read the title and be like, what? Like, Taco Bell made a, like, what? What is that? Like, and then he'll be like, yeah, it's pretty good. He'll take a big bite of this monstrosity of a food item. I'm like, that looks fucking disgusting. But apparently it's good.
The best part about his stuff is that he takes it so seriously, where he'll be reviewing like hot Cheeto dust covered pizza crust and like compare it to like the regular Cheeto dust covered pizza crust that another pizza place offered, 3 years ago that was discontinued for this reason. And it's like, he's like, I don't know. It's that like, it's that taking it seriously in the same way that like Dax, takes everything, like his interactions with people so seriously. Yeah. Like people just be blowing him off. But like that guy, oh my God, that huge douche who was in Ice Cream Man, who was like, it's like religion is dead, but mysticism is alive. The same guy who was like, oh, Dax, you see yourself as charismatic?
Yeah, God, that was such
for one, that was pretty cringe that he said that, but I have to admit that I kind of did that guy dirty. If I were to release like the uncut extended version of that conversation, that guy is definitely a lot more friendly than he was made out to be. I included those parts because I thought they were the most funny, but it definitely didn't make him look that good. I just thought that him saying that mysticism is alive and religion is dead, and then following that up with you can stare into the sun. For context, he's not staring into the sun, really. He's staring into the sunset and after the sun goes down. So he's kind of staring into the bright part of the sunset after the sun's already gone down over the horizon. Apparently that's safe to do. I looked it up. It is. You can look at that and it's fine. But apparently there are a bunch of hippy dippy types that think that is beneficial to your health. So that was pretty funny on its own. However, he explained that over the course of like a long-winded sentence, and it was just impossible to give context to it. So I feel bad because it made him look like a crazy person, but it also was really funny. And if you're out there, stranger, who told Dax to stare into the sun, I know that you're not crazy, and I hope that people will realize maybe that you're not crazy, but it was still really funny, and I don't regret it because it was hilarious. And it was very he was totally LA. That was the best part about it. He's so stereotypical of that type of LA resident, but yeah, it was totally out of left field, and I think he unintentionally came off as asshole-ish when he was like, "Oh, and you think you're charismatic?" Because he definitely wasn't like that the rest of the conversation. He was actually quite friendly. So I just want to clear that up. Context. Yeah, he wasn't mean. He was actually one of the nicer guys that talked to Dax. The mean people were the people that just blew him off,
Oh my gosh, there were so many in the doc.
Yeah. What was I going to talk about?
That's a good question. What were you going to talk about?
What we were talking about before this.
We were talking about
your next doc, food of the week.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about report of the week a little bit because that is a super highly requested one. If there are any people listening who are fans of the documentary series, I will say this: it is I think personally that it is unlikely that he will want to do a documentary, a report of the week, just based on the interactions that we've had with him so far. We've discovered a little bit that he's kind of a recluse. He's kind of, I don't know. He's not really into collaborating. Like we looked into it. We were like, has he done any other collabs? Literally the only other time that we can find that he's ever done an interview is with the local news station where he lives.
Yeah, and even it seems like he's really into broadcast. He has like a ham radio show.
Yeah.
No, I know that's a super interesting part of him. But I don't think him as a person is super interested in exposing his life like that. And that coupled with the fact that we know, me, Ian, and Ben know that there's only so far that you can get with Report of the Week with like asking him about the 3 things I think that make him interesting. His personality and his clothing is like a subject. That's an entire thing you can go into, the suits and stuff. And then the food reviewing, why he's so into fast food and fast food reviewing. That would be another subject. And then the last subject, of course, would be the obsession with ham radios and like local broadcasting and stuff like that. Those are the 3 like things, but those are all kind of things that Ian has nothing to do with really. And in my opinion, I think that while the subjects of the documentary are super interesting, people are also watching the documentaries for Ian. At the end of the day, it's his channel.
Sure.
And the thing that makes these documentaries so funny, I think, and the thing that we should always hold on to is we find something to do where Ian can interact on like a more personal level, give us a task or something, or give us something to do. And it's really hard to come up with something like that for Report of the Week. The closest thing that I pitched that neither Ian or Ben are on board with, but I am super on board with, despite me never wanting to do this casually, is I was like, we should take Report of the Week to a strip club and just see what happens. Like put him in a situation where he would be just super out of his element. And I can tell you this right now, based on how much we've interacted with him so far, just reaching out to him, I don't think he would agree to do that or anything like that for that matter. So I don't know. I feel like it would be very plain, that documentary. I don't think it would be as interesting as people would hope it would be, simply because I just think that Report of the Week he's not down to do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? He's very innocent. He's innocent in like the way that you would expect Dax Flame to be. You know, the surprising thing about Dax Flame is he's kind of down to do whatever you ask him to do. But with Report of the Week, we get this feeling from him that he's a lot more tightly closed, probably less willing to do things like that. That would be funny. That would lend to the chemistry between Ian and Report of the Week. I don't know his real name. I wish I did, or otherwise I'd call him by that. Huh?
I don't either.
Yeah. Review Brah, yeah.
Review Brah.
The Brah. I have one of his shirts. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I also think like what I've really enjoyed about the past 2 has been that I didn't know who Dax Flame was. I guess I just missed that wave of YouTube early on because I was watching it back then. I was a huge fan of Smosh and whatnot. Never heard of Dax. And I hadn't heard of Airsoft Fatty before Full Force. So it's cool to kind of like see you guys peer into these lives of these people that, you know, people otherwise wouldn't know about.
Which that's true.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is true. I'm wondering, because we'll eventually, I mean, we have a bunch of contenders that are well known, and I'm wondering how interesting we could make those because they're so well known. You know, like the intrigue of a lot of both of the documentaries so far has been that they're relatively unknown, and there are a few people who might be super familiar with them just because they've been longtime fans. But for the most part, we're introducing these people for the first time to Ian's audience, and I don't know if doing something like Report of the Week would be as interesting because a lot of stuff on Report of the Week's channel is very introspective, and he has a ton of like hour-long videos where he talks about his day-to-day life. He talks about he answers a ton of questions about himself. Like he's answered many times in the past why he wears his suits like he does, and why he acts like he does, and you know, I think a lot of that stuff is already kind of out on the table for a lot of people who are fans of him. So I don't really know if a documentary about him would be even worth doing. Despite, I don't know. I want to do something with him because I just like his content. And I think that Ian and Report of the Week chemistry could be good if he was open to it. But so far, I just don't think that it's going to work out. I think that there are a ton of other options that look promising, more promising in my opinion, that would probably have the same effect or a better effect.
Can you go into any of them, or are you guys keeping it pretty close to the chest?
I can tell you a few that we're thinking about. I mean, like, the thing is, it's like with Dax Flame, he isn't. If you go and look at the document of people that we've considered, he never was on it. We just kind of, one week we were like, Dax Flame, yeah, like that sounds like a good idea, and it didn't really seem to be a huge discussion. We were just like, yeah, that's actually a really, really good one. Let's do it. Like it wasn't something we were thinking about, is what I'm trying to say. It just kind of happened. So I will preface these other contenders that I'll reveal with the asterisk that they could totally not happen, because we could think of somebody that we didn't even think about and just do it the next week. One that I was kind of looking forward to that we've been thinking about is Chills. You know who that is?
No.
Chills is the guy who did the thing where he said, number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King foot lettuce is a Burger King burger foot, or whatever he said. Turns out the guy is like super like into like hip hop music, and he has like full length mixtapes that are actually pretty good if you listen to them. And his voice actually lends, his like weird like number 15 voice, it actually lends really well to hip hop for some reason. I'd highly recommend going and checking it out. So that on its own is pretty interesting. And two, the few interactions that Ian has had with him suggest that he's totally down to do whatever. One of our ideas for that documentary was we'll take him somewhere and have him comment on things in that voice. Like, we were thinking like, be funny to go to like an abandoned graveyard at night and have him like comment on like what's going on. Like, this spooky graveyard is very scary. So that was an idea that we had, and just because of the weird, like unpredictability of it, that's why I was kind of excited to possibly do one on Chills. So that could happen, but at the same time, it's like there isn't really too much to the guy other than he has a strange speaking voice and he makes hip hop music. So I don't know exactly how far we could go with that. We'd have to come up with a lot more stuff to do with him, I think, but that's a contender. What's another one? I'll give you another one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-il?
No, Kim Jong-il passed away.
Kim Jong-un? Oh, his son?
Yes.
Yeah, that could be a pretty interesting one. Although I think they already made a documentary. It's called The Interview.
Oh, I saw that. That was a great
James
interview.
Franco interviewed him, and that was a documentary. So,
very sad.
Let me just pull it up. Let's see if I can find one. There's some that are super, like something that like literally nobody's heard of, but we still want to make a documentary about them because they're so funny. Hold on, let me find the document. The document.
Yeah, I think the fact that, you know, I was familiar with Dax Flame as there's a few memes that you see, like the Superman looking all deflated, like humiliated after school. That meme I've seen, but I wasn't familiar with Dax Flame as the YouTuber that he is. But I saw some people on Twitter like, holy shit, I can't believe they made a Dax Flame documentary. So I think that like internet deep cut is like a big appeal of this Ice Cream Man doc.
It's one of those things where it's just like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I haven't thought about him for years.
Exactly.
It's cool to see him come out in this way. There are some things that I've written down that I haven't really gotten the other guys on board, but I really want to do one about Channel Awesome, aka the Nostalgia Critic.
Oh my god!
Because that whole lore, like there's so much lore, there's so much backstory, so much drama.
There's some shit, dude.
And he's such a weird guy. He's such a weird guy, and he's in a ton of memes, and he's super memeable. But like him as a person is so interesting to me. But I don't think I'll be able to convince the other two. That's just my dream. That's my dream guy.
I mean, he is memeable, but I think that recently there was some stuff where he was like harassing his worker. There was some weird stuff.
There was some like weird like workers comp shit going on or something. Yeah, I mean, like that would be a drama element of the documentary. We could ask him his opinion. And there's a bunch of people who have since left Channel Awesome or quit or gone their separate ways or had creative differences, quote unquote, with them. Who we could probably interview separately and get their side of the story. So I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that would be a heavier doc than Ice Cream Man.
Definitely, yeah. It would be entirely me being interested in these weird creatures that screech into the camera and say, "Why is this movie so bad?" I want to do one on Ray Sipe. You know who that is?
No, who's that?
He's a crazy old man on Twitter. He posts like random ass shit.
Amazing.
There's no other way to describe it. He like lives in Florida. He's like clearly retired and just using his free time until he dies to just like I think he just goes on trending and finds like whatever the trending thing is, and then he makes a video where he just says the word that is trending while dancing around. And I think that he just does it like he thinks that that's how you get views, is that you just make a relevant video about what's trending, but it's like not relevant at all. It's usually just an old man. He's like missing a bunch of teeth, and it's like he's like the funniest, like it's like a fever dream watching his videos. But we were like, we were thinking about doing one on him. I really want to do it on him because I've been following him for like years, like for like 10 years now. He's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and I think an old man would be like great material for one of these.
Yeah.
It sounds like such a gold mine.
Yeah. Oh, and I keep trying to convince the other two of this, but they're super... I think that I'm the only one that wants to do this one. But I think Belle Delphine would be a fucking amazing documentary because she is a weird subject.
She's so like a strange black box.
She's like no
one understands her.
It would be like... It would kind of be groundbreaking, I think, because no one really knows anything about her. And Ian, I think, is in like a very strange situation where... I think for a while, I think it's different now. I think that she has her followers hidden, but like a year ago, I think someone looked. I looked at her followers, or I think Ben looked at her followers, and we noticed that she only follows 2 people on Twitter, and that is H3H3, who she's kind of collabed with, I guess. She sent him a bottle of spit, and Ian, who she's never spoken to. So I think that she at very least enjoys his content, or at least was hoping to reach out to him in some way to collab. So I think that he's in a unique situation where he might be able to organize some sort of interview with her. And I also think that it could be relevant because she basically invented the simp. If you think about it, she created the
very
simp.
Interesting story arc.
Story. I think that it would be. I mean, like he groans when I bring this up all the time, but I'm like, dude, like now is the time. Like this is your field, man. like this is relevant to your channel at this moment in time. Like you got to do something before it wears off and people forget about it. And I think that it's understandable that he might want to distance himself from that. But I think that maybe in a year when he's, when it's kind of faded from existence, that whole simp thing, it might be more relevant. But I think that now's the time to strike personally, because one, she made it kind of a quote unquote comeback. And
God, that video. Yeah. That was
that
such
video. Yeah, I don't. It's like, it's what's that phrase? A confused boner. It's both disgusting and arousing at the same time. It's hard to describe, but she's an interesting character. I'm down to at least give that one a shot. I think that would be interesting and relevant. I think that a lot of people would be interested in finding out more about her. So, yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head as far as like people that we've considered And like I said, there are a lot of people on this list who I like literally I've never even heard of, like a lot of these people. So who knows? And like I said, a lot of this stuff isn't even people. This is like you want to do it about a certain thing, like a documentary about Bitcoin. That's just an example. Like we wouldn't want to do one about Bitcoin, but you know what I mean. Simp coin.
Kanye coin.
I guarantee that's a thing.
Of course.
There's got to be a simp coin. And if there's not, then I'm making it and I'm going to be rich.
Wow. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it seems, your career is an interesting one to follow because you have these, very in-depth, like Team Fortress 2 breakdowns of the game. And you have these, like, extremely touching, I guess, documentaries that you do with iDubbbz. It's all pretty interesting to follow. I mean,
my career is all over the place.
Personally.
I mean, like I started out on YouTube making sketch comedy as well as Stupid Mario Brothers, if anyone remembers that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
I was Ash in Stupid Mario Brothers for an extended period of time, which is like one of the more popular early syndicated, quote unquote, like fan shows on YouTube. And then, the Uncle Dane thing with TF2, like that's its own niche community, however you pronounce niche. That's its own niche-y thing. And now the documentaries, I mean, like, and I've also, I mean, not a whole lot of people have seen them, but I've worked very closely with my friend Austin Stevenson to produce 2 full-length movies. So, I mean, and they're indie movies, they're indie horror movies. If anybody's interested in checking those out, they're also on Whatever We Want.
I would love to watch those.
Yeah, what are they on?
They're on the Whatever We Want channel.
Wait, did I meet Austin at Comic-Con that one time? I feel like I might have.
Don't know. I don't think. Well, was it in San Diego?
Yeah, I remember I met a friend of yours who I know you had done YouTube stuff at Comic-Con in San Diego.
Might have been Austin.
I think you might have, because when I lived in San Diego, I was roommates with Austin, so it makes sense that he would be with me.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. My career is all over the place right now, but I'm fine with it. I like having variety in the projects that I work on, and it's fun. I really like video editing. Video editing is my passion.
Graphic design is my passion.
Yep.
Yeah. So video editing. I mean, I know you've just started posting TF2 videos again. You went on like a hiatus from the Uncle Dane channel, but the videos that you have posted are super heavily edited, and I know that's like kind of a staple of yours. But I think it's pretty cool to see, like that kind of it's not a let's play. It's not just a gameplay that you're talking over. It's like super stylized gameplay that like you really have a point to make with your editing.
Yeah. It's like a presentation. It's like a book report more than anything. I'd say that out of all the things that I have to do to make a video, editing is the thing that I have the most fun doing. So naturally, that's the thing that I put the most work into because I have fun doing it. Like if I didn't have fun doing it, then I'd probably find as many shortcuts and maybe even go as far as editing or hiring someone else to edit my videos, or even just change the format of my videos to work around the fact that I don't like it. But turns out that's my favorite part of the process. So you'll find that my videos are edited, but it's not because I'm making a point or anything. It's mostly just that's the way I like to make content. It's the most fun part of the process. I don't like I mean, writing is all right, but it's so time consuming, and I really have to be in the mood to do it. And then recording my own voice, the commentary, that's like the most hellish part. I dislike that part the most, by a long shot. And then sound design or sound editing. I've started actually, this guy who did the sound design on Ice Cream Man, his name's Soundsmith. He's also a TF2 YouTuber, but sound design is his passion. And so I reached out to him when I was editing Ice Cream Man. I was like, dude, would you be down to, just do the sound mixing on this entire documentary for me? And he was like, yeah, I can do that. So we worked very closely together when I was editing the documentary piece by piece, and I would send him little different files that contained all of the different strings for like the music, the voiceover, the lav mics, the background music, all of that stuff, and he would put them all together and make them sound good and clean up the audio and balance it so that it all made sense with each other, and he would send it back to me. And that was a really good process, and I really enjoyed it. So on this recent TF2 video that I'm going to be uploading this week, actually, I have it ready to fire. I just need the thumbnail done. I actually had him do sound mixing on that as well, and that was super successful. He made it sound really good, and it's so nice to not have to worry about it, because at the end of editing a video, I have to go back and I have to find a bunch of sound effects. I have to balance all of the stuff to make it sound good. I hate that part a lot. It's so boring, and I honestly don't really have an ear for it. So it's nice to be able to outsource that to somebody who actually does like it. And I'd like to do that with more things in the future. In fact, if I could outsource my voice to somebody else, I would.
Yeah, just anyone out there, if you have experience deep faking, whatever.
Yeah, can I get one of those robots that can that can emulate voices? Can somebody make one of those for me? Because I would honestly love to use that.
So Dane, if you don't like sound design or your voice or even writing all that much, then where do your albums fit into all this?
Oh, that's a good point.
And why are those around?
So for background, Dane has released at least two full-length parody hip-hop albums. Like the last one was a parody of Kendrick Lamar's Damn. And what is it called? Dang? What do you call it?
Darn, which is something that the engineer says, yeah.
And it's very in-depth.
It is. The reason why it's funny is that it exists. It's very millennial humor. The joke is the existence of the thing, and the amount of work that goes into it. And you did catch me in a bit of a gotcha there. Yeah, if I don't really like working with sound, then why did I make an album? Well, it's because I thought the idea was so goddamn funny and ridiculous that I basically forced myself through the process. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I would say that working with making music is a little bit more interesting, I think, than working with just straight up commentary. Because with commentary, I have to sit there and I have to talk, and I have to read. I'm reading a script, and this is just the way that I like to do it. But I'm reading a script, and I'm reading it in a way, and I try and make sure that I'm reading it in a way that makes it sound like I'm just speaking off the cuff, that I'm just kind of thinking of this off the top of my head. And it doesn't always come off that way, but I try and make it sound like that as much as possible, because if you sit there and you sound like you're reading a script, then it's a little bit less engaging, and there's not a whole lot of emotion behind it, and it's not very exciting for people to watch. So I have to do that, and that takes a lot out of me, because I don't know, it's just difficult for me to read a script and at the same time in my head think about, okay, how would I say this if I was just thinking of it? You know what I mean? And it's so I don't know. It's really hard for me to do. I know it probably doesn't sound that hard, but for me, it's hard to do, and I don't like it. But I have to do it because that's just how I would like my videos to be presented. With music, I basically just have to emulate the original, which is very easy. I find it very easy for me to copy the way things are said or the way things are sung, I guess. I grew up listening to a ton of Weird Al. I think that might have influenced it. There was a point in my life where I didn't listen to real music. I just listened to Weird Al parodies, and I think that might have something to do with it. But I feel like I'm very good at emulating the way that people say things, and I can do basically an impression of something if I listen to it enough. And so that made it a lot easier for me to record my voice or record my singing part of the thing. And then the rest of that is actually editing. Putting all of that together is editing. It's not video editing, but it's editing nonetheless. And I will say that, the songs don't sound professionally mixed because they're not. They're mixed by me. But it didn't really matter to me because the joke is the existence of the thing. It's not necessarily the impressiveness of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer, is that I forced myself to do it, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, just because I thought that the joke was funny. And that's it.
Yeah, living and dying by the meme is a very millennial thing.
Yes, and people keep asking me if I'm going to make another one, but honestly, I mean, the joke's done. I did it twice. The joke is there. I feel like if I do it again, it's like, oh, he did it again. It's not.
You're just waiting on Kendrick Lamar to drop another album.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a few ideas for specific song parodies, like for God's Plan by Drake. I want to make one called Gold Pan, or sing about a gold pan that I got from MVM. I have an idea for Kendrick Lamar's DNA, where I sing about the PDA, the engineer's PDA that he uses to build buildings.
You fucking nerd.
So yeah, there's a little tiny ideas that I have in my head that I might release as like quote unquote singles if I ever get the courage to take on that again. But I'm definitely not going to do another album. I think that I've already run that joke river dry, I think, at least in my opinion. I know that there are some people who are just like, no, we want more of the same thing, but I try my hardest to try and switch things up as much as possible. And I think 2 full-length TF2 parody albums is quite enough at this point.
See, but Dane, you have the TF2 parody album on YouTube Market completely cornered.
I do. There's a few other people who have followed suit. Like there's another guy named Funk who makes TF2 content. He made an album. It was pretty good actually. I really liked it, and I had a spot on it actually. He contacted me and asked me to do a little sketch with him, a little interlude sketch. So yeah, there are people who are filling the market as well because they saw that it was successful for me as far as like a running joke. But yeah, it's not something that's special to me. I think parody albums are criminally underdone. I think more people should do them because they're so funny. They're like the perfect blend of like, wow, this is impressive, and wow, this is the cringiest thing I've ever seen. I love
that's
that.
Like Weird Al's whole career.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You look at his body of work and you're like, this guy is a genius. He works so hard.
But this is so dumb.
It's so dumb, and his hair is so stupid, and his name is Weird Al.
His name's Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah, it's like right up my alley as far as what I find funny, which is just like riding that line between like technically impressive and just so stupid that it exists.
Yeah, high effort karaoke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is essentially high effort karaoke.
Sweaty karaoke.
Yeah. But it is something bring up to me all the time. So obviously it's resonated with people, and it's funny. There are people who say that they listen to those albums like every day.
Every day? Dude.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm like, how? It's a joke. It's not real music.
I wonder if they're like me, and like I remember when I first heard "Fat" by Weird Al, I had never heard "Bad" by Michael Jackson.
Same.
I wonder if they're like that, where they've never heard "Damn" by Kendrick Lamar.
No, yeah,
darn.
I think
on loop every day.
I really do think that might be the case for a lot of people who are fans of those albums, who are super fans at least. That they probably just think that those are original songs. Because I mean, that's how I viewed a lot of Weird Al Yankovic's music at first. I thought it was just funny songs, and then I realized that a lot of them were parodies. Most of them were.
Yeah, I don't know. Does he do original music? I'm not familiar.
Wow, you're not a big Weird Al Yankovic fan, apparently.
No, I'm not a weirdo.
He has a lot of. He has a ton of original music on his albums. A lot of them are considered style parodies, though. Like he'll do a song that's in the style of a band, but not necessarily a direct parody of a band. Does that make sense? Interesting. But they'll still be humorous. Like he has a song that's in the style of Cake, that is about like being really picky about women.
Cake is basically a part of the Sacramento extended cinematic universe.
Yep, they're from Sacramento. They even have a song called Arco Arena that's pretty jammin'.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I one time I saw the lead singer of Papa Roach at Jewel's what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Rayleigh's or Safeway in El Dorado Hills. Papa
That's
Roach
funny.
is also a part of
as a Sacramento resident, I think everybody has their own Papa Roach story. I have mine.
What's your Papa Roach story?
I mean, when I worked at Starbucks, I served him drinks many times, at least 15 times. Yeah. He has a bratty little son though. He used to run around all the time and knock shit over, and he didn't do anything about it.
Oh God, I think his son might have went to to the same high school that we did.
No, yeah, I sat next to him in art class. Actually, he was kind of like patronizing to me actually, but he always used to brag about how his older brother was a lead singer of Papa Roach all the time. He probably used it to get girls. He was definitely like one of those punk kids who thought it was super funny to like, I don't know, be like outgoing to everybody, including me, who didn't. I mean, like I was like very much an introvert at that point in my high school life, and I didn't really talk to anybody in art class. I just kind of, kept my head down and drew little cartoons on my piece of paper, and he would always be like, "Hey, what you drawing?" Like, dude, leave me alone. I know that Papa Roach is your brother and all that, but I don't care.
Yeah, well, Papa Roach is like one of those bands that has aged so poorly.
Yeah, they're like a joke now. Back then they were kind of a little bit badass, but now it's like funny looking back and be like, wow, why did anyone think that kid was cool? Why, your brother is the lead singer of Papa Roach? You mean the guy that sung "Cut My Life into Pieces"? That guy?
This is my last resort.
That's fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was so badass when I was in like 8th grade.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, those songs are directed at 8th graders specifically, so I think that's probably why.
Yeah. Some kids were listening to like, the soundtrack to like High School Musical. Me, I was listening to Last Resort.
Yeah, and Disturbed, which Roach. Disturbed actually has aged pretty well. I go back and I listen to 10,000 Fists quite a lot.
Is that the album with like the really lumpy looking guy on the cover?
They all have that fucking lumpy looking guy on the cover. Is that the joke?
No, I just know one album cover.
That's literally like every single one of their albums has like that demon looking guy on the front. No, it's like a guy. Cool. It's like that. They have like an OC or something. It's like
I ship him. I ship Jacoby Shaddix and the lumpy guy from Disturbed.
No, look it up. There's every single one of their albums has like this demon OC on it, and on 10,000 Fists, it's him holding his fists in the air with a bunch of other punk rock type people behind him.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Wait,
I'm looking at it right now.
10,000 others.
10,000 Fists. That album's actually pretty great. I think the whole album holds up pretty well, to be honest. As far as like a cheesy like early 2000s rock album goes.
I still really like all the songs from like Guitar Hero 3.
Yeah,
like I went through
that's
my
like
old
the
playlist.
Soundtrack.
Yeah, dude, it's great. They have like Reptilla and I don't know, a bunch of other good stuff.
Through the Fire and Flames.
Through the Fire and Flames, of course. Oh, dude, that was banging back then.
Yeah, Guitar Hero 2 and Guitar Hero 3 had some of the best track lists of any of those rhythm games of all time, in my opinion. Those are some really great track lists. I love
Millennials owe a huge debt to Guitar Hero for informing our musical taste journey.
Yep. Now, you know what they have that's kind of like that for Gen Z or the new generation?
Beat Saber?
TikTok. What?
Oh, TikTok.
Oh, totally.
That I'd say that like most song discovery that happens now is just through TikTok now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and some of it's extremely good. Like I heard about Roddy Ricch, the rapper, through TikTok. My girlfriend always sends me TikToks, and I mean, there's some awesome music there.
TikTok is strange to me because this is the first like cultural phenomenon that I'm not even a little bit interested in participating in. Like,
oh my gosh, Dane, you are missing out. There are some absolute bangers. I don't think I am. On TikTok. I'll send you some good ones.
The one, here's the thing, the TikToks that I like are basically just like weirdos that post things that have no views and they're just crazy.
Yeah.
And those are really hard to find because most of TikTok is just a bunch of underage girls dancing. And I've heard stories from like people who teach in schools and stuff back before COVID shut them all down, but I've heard people who are school teachers, they say like, oh no, this was actually on the H3 podcast. This was William Osman's wife, who's a school teacher. She said that that's all kids do, like during recess, is they just make TikToks. They make them. It's just like what? Like that's crazy to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think what it comes down to is our brains have been hacked for the purposes of getting our eyeballs to look at advertisements.
Yeah, definitely. It's been like that for a while, ever since like television, really. Like
Oh, absolutely. The whole reason why television like channels existed was to serve ads.
Yeah. Which is fine, it's a capitalist society. It's kind of the symptom of that, if you think about it. Capitalism. I know, bringing up capitalism. It's always a really great subject. Capitalism. Always cool to bring up capitalism. But I mean, like, however you feel about it, I think that it's just because of that. It's like, well, the world revolves around selling things, so you're going to see people selling things, and they're going to try and sell things to you as much as possible. So. Yeah,
and actually, speaking of that, this podcast is brought to you by Raycon. We love Ray J here on this podcast, and his headphones are just the best.
Yes, Raycon. Oh my God. Once I put on Raycon headphones, and then I put on some other kinds of headphones, and I literally screamed. It was so bad.
You guys know what I use my Raycons to listen to?
What?
The amazing audio quality in Raid Shadow Legends.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually playing Raid Shadow Legends with my Raycon headphones, and they ran out of battery, which they never do, because Raycon headphones, have world-class battery, and I put in my AirPods from Apple, and I threw up everywhere. I barfed, dude. I was yakking.
Yeah. I puked. And you know what's even better than Raid Shadow Legends, if there even is such a thing? It's what? Raid. Just the bug spray. It's really, really useful. You can spray bugs and they die. It's so cool.
You know what's okay? So I love, if you know me and if you listen to this podcast, I love spraying bugs with Raid. But you know what I like better than Raid the bug spray?
What?
Ray Romano.
This podcast is sponsored by Ray Romano. Everybody loves Raymond, and you should too.
And this has been the Motion Pixels podcast. I'm your co-host, August Meyer. August, say goodbye. Wear Raycon. Joined by my Raycon wearing co-host, Matthew Rawlings. Matthew, say goodbye.
Don't forget to play Raid Shadow Legends.
And this week, generously joined by the biggest fan of bug spray I know, Dane Kevin Cook. Dane, say goodbye.
Goodbye, and I hope that if you have bugs, you'll use Raid bug spray to spray them and kill them with poison.
Because this has been the Motion Pixels podcast. Theme song.
Finished.
I legitimately would like to be sponsored by Raid Bug Spray. I think it would be really funny. You
should reach out.
I have. I added them on. I added them on Twitter. They didn't respond.